Hey everyone, this is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. This video is going to be about my college experience. I follow someone on YouTube named Julesy, and she recently did a video about her college experience, and I thought that would be like a good video to do, not in just a purely animation related way, but just to kind of holistically discuss my college experience. So I am originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I went to Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. So that was a 6-hour drive through Canada. It was colder, which I don't like the cold. That's why I live in New Orleans. So all that lake effect weather, it really wasn't for me. I majored in film, video, and animation, so I was originally going to get my BFA in film, video, and animation. I ended up getting a Bachelor of Science in Multidisciplinary Studies, which is make your own major, which I knew I could do because in the animation industry, what your degree is really doesn't matter. It just matters what your portfolio is. And so, another thing, I went to that college because of wanting to play basketball, because I played 4 years varsity in high school, and so I want to continue playing basketball in college. I just didn't end up playing at RIT. My first experience at RIT was through the North Star program, which was a it was like a summer program, a 2-week summer program for minorities, which were called Alana, African American, Latino American, and Native American. And so we all got to kind of get our feet wet in the college experience and I took a English class, I believe it was, with Professor Vincent Golphin, which I'm still Facebook friends with. And then I took a psychology class with Dr. Oh man, what was her name? Like, everybody wanted to take her class throughout college. I can't remember her name, but I did get to take a psychology class. Once I got into like RIT during 2004, I was one of, like, our freshman class in the film, video, animation department was 60, and I was one of 2 black people in my program. As far as women, I could say I was probably one of 10, maybe. So mostly white guys. And so I didn't really have a problem with that. It's just that's kind of the breakdown of how many people I had to who looked like me. There was other people in the program that were older than me, Latoya Adams and Trisha Andrews. Latoya was still in animation. I think Trisha was more on the film side, because your freshman year everyone was taking film classes, so your first quarter we were using the Bolex camera, where you had to wind it for power, and that was film, so you had to cut it and splice it and stuff. And that was like a big thing at RIT, because we're like, oh yeah, we're better than NYU, because at NYU you don't touch a camera until your second year. So at RIT you had to touch your camera in your first quarter of your freshman year, and then the second quarter we went to the digital camera. And so that was a concentration on like editing and stuff. And then third quarter, it was a concentration on sound editing, but while still using digital cameras to kind of fulfill that. And my third quarter of freshman year was actually my first 3D class. I got to take a 3D modeling class, and that's where I met one of my mentors till this day, Karabo Laguela. Which I'm probably saying his name wrong, because I do not have the tongue to properly say his African name in a Botswanan accent. But that's my dude. He's helped me so much throughout the years as far as kind of doing the 3D animation thing. And So that, like, freshman year was, I feel like freshman year was the best year of my college experience, because it was a combination of like just being able to get away from home and just be a full adult and just be able to do whatever you want. And then, but the summer after, you're just coming back and you're like still considered a child to your parents, but you've just been an adult for this year. It was kind of clash. But the people that I met in the North Star program, which expanded to the people I met in my dorm, which was Unity House, which was where a lot of the African American, Latino American people stayed. And it's just like a special interest house, because we had international house, art house, house of general science, the business house, engineering house, and stuff like that. So it just was one of the special interest house that you could live in on campus. And so just those people, meeting those people, we were called the 0405 track stars, because a party didn't get started till we got there. And it just like I mean, I was kind of on the wave. I don't know if I had this kind of air, but the freshmen that I hung out with had that air where we didn't seem like freshmen. Sometimes people mistakenly thought we were sophomores because of just how comfortable our group was. And so it's just like freshman year, like all the pranks that, I mean, we could literally tell stories for hours just based off the 0405 year of all this thing. Like quotes, it's all fun and games till somebody gets coast. Like, man, just so many awesome experiences just living in the dorm with so many people that are like you, and just learning so much about kind of that New York City culture, because that's a lot of people I went to school with from New York City. And finally learning what a borough was, because I don't even know what the heck I thought it was before RT, but I understand now that boroughs make up New York City. I don't know if I thought like New York City was one thing and then Bronx and Brooklyn and all that stuff was just two totally different. Like I don't know what I thought, but I know now what it is. And then so like freshman year also, I created a program called Celebrating Diversity Through the Arts, which doesn't make any sense at all, because I mean, I'm an introvert, and I was like, I didn't talk. Like, I was very quiet, and I am still very quiet now, but I talk more. But just like, who are you as a freshman to come up with this program to put on? And then I wasn't the face of it because I didn't need attention. I just wanted to do it. And so somebody who worked for the North Star office, Haisha Robinson, she helped me put it on. And it was just basically, I wanted minorities from different programs in CIAS, which is the Center for Imaging Arts and Science. That was my college in school. I wanted to bring minorities and kind of highlight the work that they were doing, whether it was industrial design, photography, animation, graphic design, new media design, even if you were a dancer. Like, I just wanted to highlight that. And so like the second year I did it my sophomore year too. And the second year I did it, it was like more expansive, and you kind of had like the TVs where you could see the digital. It was more fine arts, I guess, the first year. But it only lasted for 2 years, because after Haisha left and went to University of Rochester, it was just like, well, I'm not going to do this because I don't know what I'm doing, and then I don't want the attention. So it just lasted 2 years, but it was like crazy. Like, where did I even get that idea, and how did I even think to approach someone to create it? Like, I just am an anomaly to myself just because of what my natural personality is, and then who I was at that point in life, not even as outward as this. I just think about it, I'm just like, who the heck were you? Like, how did you do that? And then we go to sophomore year. Well, if I go back to freshman year, that's when I was really trying to hang out with people in my major, because I don't have problems hanging out with people who are different than me. But just, I mean, in animation, man, people are just so quirky. And it's just like, I remember one time I was hanging out with people and we were playing apples to apples. And And somehow one of my classmates ended up in his underwear. And there was no alcohol involved. We weren't playing strip apples to apples. Like, how this dude ended up in his underwear, I have no clue what was the progression of that. But I just was like, this is really not for me. So I really didn't hang out with people like that I went to class with. And then there was another thing of, I could have a full out conversation with someone in class, and then when we were out on the quad, they would like divert their eyes and ignore the hell out of me. And it was just like so fake. Like I just didn't understand why it was acceptable for you to speak to me in class but then ignore my existence anywhere else. And so I just really didn't feel comfortable hanging out with people in my major. And I feel like that kind of did a disservice to me when I graduated, because ideally you curate these friends all throughout college, and then as an animation major, you want to go out to California. Oh, let's 3 of us go out to California. 3 or 4 of us go out to California, get an apartment and stay together and be poor and all that stuff, but be able to make it because we're all together, and then kind of build yourself up. And so that's really why I didn't really go to California, was because I didn't know how I could like afford it, and I didn't have any family out there. So it would have been nice to, the 2 friends that I had in my major, one went to the film side, and then another one, he was like excellent at stop motion, but then he ended up changing his major to be a paralegal, and I was like, no, why? You are so awesome. But I don't know, people I guess got to be realistic and get major in stuff that they don't like because they need to get a job after college or something. So, and then we transitioned into sophomore year. The crux of sophomore year was mostly the fact that I became a member of my sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And that was a big thing, because anybody that knew me in high school would never guess that I would join a sorority. And I didn't think I would join a sorority until you kind of, like, in that I'm so analytical and I'm a thinker, there was like a strategy, like there was a reason why joining the sorority could be to my benefit. It could expand me as a person. Like, the reason I can articulate things now and the reason I can successfully communicate with other people is because I was a Zeta. That's like, I used being part of that organization to build myself up as a person, because when I graduated from high school, like, my best friend would always say, at most I would say yes, no, maybe. I did not speak in really complete sentences. I was capable of speaking complete sentences. I graduated 10th in my class, so I was smart. It's just like my communication skills were not on point at all. And so college was really a purposeful time for me to get better as a person and be able to communicate to people effectively. I still got a ways to go, but I'm way better than what I used to be. And so sophomore year was mostly, I had classes and stuff like that. Oh, sophomore year was also the time in which I got behind in my major. So at RIT, you have 3 big projects that you have to complete for graduation. You have your 1/4 film, which at RIT you had 3 10-week quarters instead of 2 16 to 18-week semesters. So it was really fast paced. So your 1/4 film was completed in your sophomore year, and I failed that class twice. Mostly because there were 2 professors that taught the 1/4 film, and I took the easier professor, or what I felt was the easier professor, because the other professor was a lady who everyone felt like she had a chip on her shoulder for like getting fired from Disney or something like that. And so she was like very mean. She wasn't mean to me because I took her for gesture drawing, so I guess you had to kind of find the right spot, but I mean, finding the right spot wasn't always a surefire way to make sure she didn't do anything to you, because she just was very mean to people in general. And so I didn't want to take her as a professor, but I think I would have possibly graduated with a BFA if I had taken her, because she purposefully made her students do 30-second to minute films, which I think that was like really good, because it makes you not go on forever. Like my film, once I finally finished it, it was like 2 minutes and stuff like that. And in animation time, that is a lot of time. And so additionally, my professor that I had, even though I took the class 3 times with him, he did not know my name. And again, I tell you, I was one of 2 people in my class, in my freshman class, who were black. So there's not that many, like, you can't confuse me. Well, he did confuse me. He actually called me another black girl's name, which I don't even know who the heck that was, because I felt like I knew all the black people in the major, no matter their year. So like the fact that he didn't know my name or called me some other black girl's name, was like interesting. And I had him for several classes. So like the fact that you can't remember my existence is interesting too. So I failed it twice just because I couldn't finish it, because it was so long and you're doing it by yourself. And then so your second project is a 2-quarter film, which you're supposed to do your junior year, and your last project is your final thesis, which just takes 3 quarters or the entire year. And I just felt like, because in your 2-quarter and your thesis, you work with other people. So since I got behind on my 1-quarter film, I was not able to kind of stay in line with my peers. And so I guess I would have had to do my 2-quarter film with people who were freshmen when I was sophomore, and I didn't know them. I just felt like I couldn't successfully complete, and I didn't want to stay at RIT a 5th year, because I already decided to go to a school that was $32,000 a year, and they sent emails every year that they were raising tuition. And I mean, I already did that to my father, and he like took out a lot of loans for me. And so I just didn't want to stay 5 years just to say I had a BFA, when I knew like it didn't matter what my degree was. So yeah, the big thing sophomore year was the fact that that's the reason I changed my major. I changed my major junior year, but that was the reason I had to change my major, because I was ahead of the game, actually, because by the time I was a freshman, by the time I was my 2nd quarter in freshman year, I was a sophomore, because I did dual enrollment in high school, and I came to RIT with 7 classes of credit. So I didn't even have to take the like the little art classes and stuff, where that was great, because in that it was cold. The art students had these big portfolio cases, and they had to have those like the art supplies that they took down the quarter mile. With the quarter mile was like would combine the dorm side to academic side. So like they would be blown away in the wintertime with the wind and stuff like that. And I didn't have to take any of those classes because I got transfer credit for them. And so, like, I was ahead of the game. So I didn't change my major because of not having enough credits, because I actually required less credits to graduate BFA. It's just the time that it took to get those credits that kind of was my thing. I actually had to take more classes to graduate in the multidisciplinary studies major, but the time that it took to take those classes I could do before I graduated. So it was crazy. And then becoming a Zeta, like I became a Zeta in April, and by May I was the president for the next year, which at that, like, you would never be able to tell me that I would be ever, at that point in my life, you would never be able to tell me that I'll be a president of anything because that's just not who I was. But my fellow sorority sisters really encouraged me to become president, and so I was president of my chapter my junior year. And then for the rest of college, my really goal was okay, I was part of a group called the Black Awareness Coordinating Committee, BACC. And so that was our BSU, Black Student Union, and we would always have these this programming and these events where we discussed race, but the myriad of white people that we went to school with never came to those events to discuss it. And so I really wanted to know what white people felt about race. And so for junior and senior year, any project that I could make about race, I would make about race, because in my class I was surrounded by plenty of white people, and sometimes for participation points they would have to like comment on my projects. And so I remember in my public speaking class, I did one of my speeches was on different kinds of discrimination. So there's the individual discrimination, institutional discrimination, and structural discrimination, which I won't go into what those are. But I remember having a white woman kind of combat me on some stuff with that, and I had to, like, through my research, kind of combat her back, like, nope, this is real. Affirmative action, white women benefit the most from affirmative action, so you can't really use that. And then I remember in my I can't remember what the name of the course was, but for one of the projects we had to pick an image and just like discuss write a paper about the image and discuss it. And so I picked Vogue's cover where LeBron James and the model Giselle were on the cover, and you could juxtapose that to the cover of one of the King Kong books, and he had the same exact pose where like LeBron was essentially the ape or the gorilla, and Giselle was the white woman he was like kind of saving or something like that. And so I had, man, I feel like I'll remember this for the rest of my life. But this one guy was like, well, maybe they were calling him a monkey in a good way. And I just was like, considering the history of people calling black people monkeys in America, I don't see it. And I felt like that was the first moment in my college experience where I was equipped to kind of go back on someone, because I naturally writing things down is more the way I get my point across, and impromptu speaking and just trying to have to go off the cuff and immediately respond. I've gotten better at it, but even in college, that was not my like forte. And so that class and that moment was the first time I was able to kind of like immediately respond to a comment that somebody said. And then luckily the professor helped me, like, nah, bruh, like, you not gonna call a black person a monkey in a good way. And then I had a project in visual anthropology where I talked about the different stereotypes for different groups, like Italians, Irish, Native Americans, black people, Chinese, and all that type stuff. And I remember getting into a disagreement with my professor because I was just saying how, like, my oldest sister, when she was like still with, when she was with her ex-husband, they would kind of have this back and forth where they would do the like proper voices and stuff like that. And I was mentioning how she would talk white, and you know, most people when they say talk white, they actually mean talk properly or speak properly, and that's not what I was saying. Like, I don't think speaking properly is talking white. I was talking about the intonation, because there is a difference in intonation that, for the most part, that black people and white people have. So because when if I'm listening to the radio or to the news and I can't see the person, even when the newscaster is speaking properly, I can still, for the most part, tell that they're black because of the different intonation. I feel like sometimes, especially like white women, have this different like intonation and they speak very high. And so that's what I was trying to tell her that my sister did, but she's like, oh no, you don't speak white, you speak it proper. I'm like, lady, I know what you're talking about, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the intonation. And so That was like my main goal in my junior and senior year, which I thought was cool that I thought of that. I kind of wish I thought of that my freshman and sophomore year, but my freshman and sophomore year were for a purpose. And so my junior and senior year, I really concentrated on getting like what white people thought on race, because there was plenty of them. So I just wanted to know their thoughts, and they never came to our events. So that was my opportunity to kind of figure that out. And so also in college, in general, I never really still hung out with people my age. Some of my best friends were like a professor in the engineering in the engineering department or college, and then somebody he went to college with who was an RIT alum, and then her younger brother who was my age. The professor was a Caribbean, and so Caribbean men like cook, and a college student's always about the free food. So like I would go over to his house and get like oxtail, and he like taught me how to make bread once, which my hands are not strong enough to make bread like that, kneading the bubbles out and stuff. Like I'm not strong enough to do that. But yeah, and then I remember with Professor Dale Smith, who's I think now in Alabama, the dean of one of the colleges. Like we had a group together of me and a couple other college students where we were trying to get our entrepreneurship thing on and start like a t-shirt business or something like that. That never went anywhere, but it was like a good experience. And yeah, like I never really, like I would always hang out with people my age, but like my really people who I hung out in my free time with were the older people. Hence my my mentor, who was the reason Karabo was my TA in my first 3D modeling class. So he was a grad student, and I hung out with him too. And then there was a point, I think after my sophomore year, I stayed a little bit in the summer, and I kind of hung out with the Caribbean people, trying to understand what they were saying. And my boyfriend right now is Jamaican, and I still can't understand when he's speaking like full patois. I mean, he'll clean it up for me to kind of communicate properly with me. Not properly, but like, so I understand what he's saying. Like, he doesn't speak in patois to me. But when he's like speaking with his friends or with his family, and he goes full patois, like just like in college, I don't understand what the heck they're saying. And so they would be like, he's talking, and then ha ha ha, and I'm like, well, what was the joke? And so yeah, I feel like, you know, it's funny because, you know, people who are I guess against joining fraternities and sororities say that you're buying your friends, which I don't think is true, but because people really don't understand sororities and fraternities at all. But but for me personally, college was partly buying friends and buying experiences. Like I don't think I got the best animation education at RIT. Not that it was bad, but I could have been better, especially like I sit here today and, you know, people are like, who is the professor that had the most impact on you? And I could, like, Aharon Sharnoff. That's one. Aharon, like, yeah, that's my dude. And maybe Johannes Buchwald, like, he was cool. But like, if you could sit there and just like struggle, like before that, the moment where I just said Aharon, like I couldn't think of anybody. But Aharon did have a big impact on me, and he like pushed, like he was a great professor and pushed you. He's my Facebook friend now too, and he pushed you in the class. But like there was no professors that like kind of tried to take me under their wing or anything. But I'm glad I went to RIT because I met a lot of very dynamic people, and I just look forward to seeing what they accomplish in the future, like possibly seeing people I know on TV, or just have a big impact on their community or in the world, or just being awesome engineers or something like that. Like, I just met so many awesome people that I love seeing their growth and progress on Facebook. It's like such a cool thing to have Facebook, to be able to keep up with people and see all the awesome things that they're doing. So I mean, I wouldn't trade my experience of going to RIT. It would be, I mean, ideal to kind of be in a better place as far as having a better education and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm in a good place where I am now, and I have control of what I do and how good I am as an artist and stuff like that. So that's not really a big deal. I just like that freshman year where we had all those good experiences. I feel like that's really important to me, and I'm appreciative that I had that experience. But I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I missed out on talking about my college experience. Like the time I was a peer assistant for the North Star Academy. So like I did the pre-freshman thing, and the next year I was like one of the leaders, the peer assistants, and then I was orientation leader for orientation, the college orientation. So I mean, there's a bunch of stuff I left out, but I said the most important parts. But if you have any questions about my college experience or anything, just leave it down in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer your question. See you in the next video.